You're watching NRATV with Bill Whittle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Los Angeles, California Live. I'm Bill Whittle, and this is the Hot Mike Show. Hot Mike was here just, I don't know, a half an hour, 40 minutes ago. He brought in 2 simple glazed donuts this morning for his breakfast, and the receipt only showed 1, so he's down there at the donut store arguing with the owner about the receipt for his donut. Hopefully we'll have him back for the second half. Today I'd like to talk about, excuse me, the left's liberal libel lie. And those of us who like alliteration always do alliterative things. What do I mean by this? Well, it's basically the same story that we've been hearing for so long now. And what it is it's the demonization of conservatives by people on the left. And there's a number of reasons for this. And some of them are very interesting. But basically, it's the whole idea that Antifa, for example, a group of basically well-off college students who like to dress up in black masks and black gloves and black pants and black shirts and smash windows. Antifa stands for anti-fascist, you see, and these kids here are of the belief that they are fighting fascism by beating up people who want to hear a different opinion than the one that they have. Did you get that? I'll just say it again. They're calling themselves anti-fascist Antifa. And in order to show how anti-fascist they are, they dress in black outfits with masks over their faces, carry clubs, smash things, and intimidate their political opponents. You just can't make this kind of stuff up. But the reason Antifa exists, and the reason Antifa is tolerated, in fact, practically celebrated by the previous administration, is because the left has basically, for 30, 40, 50 years now, painted conservatives as Nazis. So you wouldn't want to go out and punch a person. That'd be a crime. But everybody wants to punch a Nazi, right? And that's how they justify their innate propensity for violence, which seems to be a real problem with the left. This whole idea of the Republicans and conservatives as evil, as Nazis, as worse than Hitler, all of this, that this idea when you hear celebrities speaking, and they'll talk in very hushed tones, they say, well, right now we live in very troubling times, and the people getting hysterical, we're going to take every single immigrant and lock them up in camps and either bulldoze them over with a minute or we're going to chuck them over the wall. This kind of thing has a couple of motivations. But the primary motivation is virtue signaling. Now, that's a term I only heard last year, I think. But it's a terrific term because the second I heard it, I knew what it meant. The left lives by virtue signaling. They live by showing other people on the left and the rest of us, knuckle-dragging savages, they live to express and to show how virtuous they are, how morally superior, how intellectually superior they are. So as I've said before, they'll drive down the 405 freeway with a bumper sticker on their Prius that says Free Tibet, and they'll feel like they're doing something about freeing Tibet. And that makes them feel very, very good. And all of their friends say, oh, I see you've got a Free Tibet bumper sticker on your Prius. You must really care a lot about Tibet. Oh, I do. What does this mean? Do they do anything for the people of Tibet? No, if they wanted to free Tibet, you should have a bumper sticker that says United States Marine Corps. And they talk about, you see bumper stickers that say end world hunger. That's a lovely goal. It certainly is. What are you doing about it? Are you donating food? Are you raising food? Are you doing food drives? No. I have a bumper sticker on my car. And that's the currency of the progressive movement, is this sense of moral outrage and preening. And this is essential to the left. You can't have a left without it, because the left is all about remaking society. We're going to remake it into a socialist society, and we're going to undo all of the evils of capitalism and all of the injustices. But if it turns out that pretty much all of the real injustices have been worked out by the Republic and by capitalists, if it turns out that there's no more actual real injustice, then there's nothing for the left to get outraged about. And if there's no outrage and no injustice, what do you need to change for? So they have to start manufacturing things. And the better our society gets, the more they have to manufacture and the louder they have to be about it. Now, there's something very interesting about this that I did not know until about a week ago, and I just latched onto it. It's really, really interesting. I'll just take a moment or two to get into it with you, because a couple of psychologists took a look at this moral outrage which is growing throughout the country, among the students especially, and everybody's going to be very, very upset about what's happening to the rainforest and all of this constant protesting, this constant smashing of windows, this constant stuff. And what these two scientists found out was very interesting. They wrote an article called "A Cleansing Fire, Moral Outrage Alleviates Guilt and Buffers Threats to One's Moral Identity" by Zachary Rothschild and Lucas Kiefer. What they're saying is people will show moral outrage to something completely unrelated from them as a subconscious way of covering up for their own guilty feelings. Here's some of the things they found out. Here's the abstract. Why do people express moral outrage? While this sentiment often comes from a perceived violation of some moral principles, we test the counterintuitive possibility that moral outrage at third-party transgressions is sometimes a means of reducing guilt over one's own moral failings and restoring a moral identity. And that is exactly what is going on. We were dealing with people who have no moral core. They've not achieved anything, not been allowed to achieve anything. They've been given everything they want all the time. They've never known hardship, never known hunger, never known pain, really, unless it's a brief accident, in which case time it takes to get to the hospital. They haven't done anything. They've got nothing to their credit. They don't really believe in anything. So since they have this moral failing, internally, they're going to externally show a great deal of moral indignation about things that they have no impact on and doesn't connect to them in any particular way. Going on with this article, this is what these two scientists discovered. They said, feelings of guilt are a direct threat to one's sense that they are a moral person, and accordingly, research on guilt finds that this emotion elicits strategies aimed at alleviating guilt that do not always involve undoing one's actions. So that basically says that if you feel guilty about something, let's say you just do nothing but just, sleep around and all the drugs you want and, wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and all the rest of it. What this says is that sense of guilt is a threat to their moral identity. And since it's a threat to their moral identity, they come up with strategies to get rid of that guilt without having to undo the things that they feel guilty about. See how easy it is? You don't have to feel guilt about things that you did and then atone for them, work for them, pay them back, apologize. You don't have to do any of that. If you're feeling really guilty about being a completely lousy person, then all you have to do is get outraged about what's happening in Palestine. And you prove to yourself and other people how incredibly virtuous you are. I think this is exactly spot on. He goes on to say, furthermore, research shows that individuals respond to reminders of their group's moral culpability, their moral failings, with feelings of outrage at third-party harm-doing. So if you want to know why Republicans are a target, or corporations especially, or businesses, why are they a target? Well, they're a third-party target. They're something that they have nothing to do with. It's completely clean from them. What they're doing is like the sin eaters in an Irish wake. They're basically taking all of their anxieties and fears and guilt and all the horrible things they've done, and they're wrapping them up in a little box, and they're putting that box someplace else, and now it's not on them anymore. Now the box is on corporations, or the box is on war for oils, or maybe the box is on genetically modified foods, or maybe the box is somewhere else. It's not my guilt anymore. I don't have to feel it. So I'm going to signal as much as I possibly can just exactly how much virtue I have. And here's one more thing to close this. It says that study number 1 showed that personal guilt uniquely predicted moral outrage at corporate harm-doing and support for retributive punishment. In other words, if they're guilty, they think a third party is responsible, and they want to see that party punished, not themselves, They want to see the third party punished. Study 5 showed that guilt-driven outrage was attenuated by an affirmation of moral identity in an unrelated context. So if we feel guilty about something, as I say, if we look at something over there and we say that's awful, smash a few windows of Bank of America, we're fighting the Nazis, I can't be a bad person, I go out and fight Nazis every day. And the final thing I think I'll say before we take a break and come back to our guest is something that's also very important in understanding how the left works and what they think. They express outrage at everything, and you have to balance the two pans on the scale, right? You can't have all of this outrage, all of this weight on the left, this constant, you can't have all of that balanced by reasonable people who have a different opinion about the best way to run the country. If you're going to have that kind of moral weight, if you're going to have that kind of guilt, and if you're going to have to, if this is what makes you get up in the morning, then you've got to make that other side heavier. You have to add things to the other side, things that don't exist. So again, it's not really a big motivator for one of these people to say, I've got to get up this morning and I've got to go out there and protest the Republican strategy for privatizing the water supply. No, that's something they could actually do. In order to make their pan balance, they have to be opposed to something bigger than that. So it's not I'm going to go out and oppose the Republican plan to privatize the city's water supply. It's like I'm going to go out and stop the fascist takeover of America. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to be a comic book hero. I'm going to be a revolutionary. I'm going to be Che Guevara. And if you think about it, these adult infants that we've raised now, that have been raised by 2 generations of far left professors, they're not allowed to do anything except for one thing. They can't compete. They're not allowed to go into business. No one ever kept score on their baseball games or their soccer games. Everybody got the trophy. Everybody got their picture on the refrigerator. Everybody did everything A+ all the time. So they can't compete. They have no way of actually establishing their own identities. But there's one thing that they actually can do. It's the one thing that throughout their course of their entire life has been not only allowed, but actually been encouraged. And that is protest. And that is become a victim. That's what they're good at. That's what they know how to do. It is just absolutely amazing how strong this drive is. And they get to be the kind of heroes that their left-wing professors have only held up for them. They didn't get to see John Wayne or Audie Murphy. They don't get to know anything about SEALs or anything. Those are the evil imperialist war machine oil devourers. The only people they've ever had lionized are protesters, Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Che Guevara and all the rest of it. So that's where they go because that's the only place they have. Now, our story today is a case of really extreme virtue signaling. And what it comes down to is this. There's a little symphony in Santa Monica, California. Santa Monica is one of the most liberal places in the country. And they occasionally ask for a guest director. Well, one of the guest directors was a man who knows quite a bit about music. He's not a professional, but he knows his music. And his name is Dennis Prager. And if you recognize that name, it's because Dennis Prager is a brilliant man who's also a conservative commentator. And when the left found out that a conservative was coming to conduct the orchestra, they went a little bit nuts. Here's a promo.
I'm conducting the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. It's a statement for tolerance and love of music to come to the concert because there are people who are trying to have me disinvited. The board of the orchestra and the conductor are solidly behind me. So if you come on August 16th to the Walt Disney Concert Hall, it's a statement of I want to have a great time, and it's a statement of I want to fight the people who are closing down even music making.
So, Dennis Prager is boycotted by the musicians in the orchestra. One specifically, we'll talk about him when we come back with Dennis after the break. But he's boycotted. And the reason he's boycotted is because they said that we do not want to normalize bigotry in America. You see the moral stand I'm taking? It's not that I disagree with Dennis Prager. It's not that I don't find his opinions or his morals appealing to me. No, no, no. No, I have to do more than that. I can't just disagree with him. Where's the glory in that? So what I have to do is I have to make a point of fighting against this fascist Nazi bigot. And that will do two things. It will make me feel good about myself and alleviate my guilt, as we talked about before, and will also raise my status among my super liberal peers. So, one of the professors there at a professor at UCLA actually started a little email, and he basically urged people. His name was Andrew Apter, and he circulated an email saying, this is a direct quote, "Please urge your friends not to attend this concert, which helps normalize bigotry in our community." And after he sent that around, a number of musicians also refused to play, and so Dennis Prager was asked to basically not conduct the show. Now, one has to wonder what the politics of this guy is. I bet $100 that he is an extremely far left-wing guy who thinks socialism is swell, and he is the one with 200 million dead people on his conscience. Not me and not Dennis Prager. It's his philosophy, and it's the philosophy of everybody else in that orchestra practically. And all the people that walked out on Dennis Prager, they're all socialists. They're all responsible for, because they support this system that has murdered 100 to 200 million people, murders people every day. Venezuela is collapsing. Among the most oil-rich countries in the world, it's collapsing because they love their socialism so much, and people are dying and starving, and they always have been, and they always will be, as long as this philosophy that those liberals believe in is being maintained. But that's okay. That's okay. You can have a conductor who's a big old socialist or a communist. What you can't have is, you can't have a conductor who's in favor of limited government, cutting the spending, personal responsibilities, personal rights. That is absolutely horrific, and it must be fought tooth and nail. I'm Bill Whittle. This is the Hot Mic Show. We'll be back with Dennis Prager right after this break.